The following podcast is part of the MindBodySpirit.fm podcast network.
I know every operating
At my
system like
last
the
job,
back of
in
my
my current
hand.
role,
I have
I
25 years of experience and have worked with several people from your company. I've been recognized for my passion. My team is everything.
LinkedIn delivers candidates who rise above the rest. With an up-to-date view into shared connections, skills, and interests you won't find anywhere else. See why 86% of small businesses who post a job on LinkedIn get a qualified candidate within a day. Post a job for free at linkedin.com/achieve. LinkedIn, your next great hire is here.
You know what's smart? Enjoying a fresh gourmet meal at home that you didn't have to cook. Meet Factor, your loophole in the laws of mealtime. Chef-crafted meals delivered with a tap, ready in just 2 minutes. You know what's even smarter? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Factor is dietitian approved, chef prepared, and you plated. Pretty smart, huh? Refresh your routine and eat smart with Factor. Learn more at factormeals.com.
Wholeness means to me being in a state of joy.
Wholeness means feeling complete, owning my authentic gifts.
Wholeness is really connected. Everything is connected to everything.
Wholeness is where we have access to all parts of ourselves.
Our good friend Karen Crawford, who we've interviewed a couple times on the podcast, sent me Linda's information and suggested that I have her on the podcast, and I was thrilled to do so. She is an amazing woman, so fun to talk to, so practical and fun. I learned a lot from her. She is from New Zealand, and she's an energy healer and teaches you how to find your own energy healing modality, the one that's right for you, or ones, I should say. She explains the different type of healers in this podcast and healing modalities, and I think you'll really enjoy it. As we're talking about Attached this month on the podcast, I wanted to have kind of a basis about energy healing so that when we talk about the woo-woo of how we can work in relationships or heal our attachment wounds, that we had a general idea of what energy healing is in a positive way. So Linda did a great job explaining some of the modalities, and we will definitely talk more about that in our woo episode.
I guess I'd start with the standard, we're all connected, everything is energy. Even things that don't seem like they're alive, like rocks, and everything around us is energy. And we all have a vibration, and you look to plants and you know that pranic healing teaches us to look for air prana. You can see it when at certain times of day when it's a very clear sky. If you close your eyes, really pull them together and look into you can see little tiny dots flying around, squiggles. So that's air prana, which is known as chi as well. So you can see it, and you can see around, you can actually, if you look at trees carefully and watch them, you can see the aura around them, you can see the prana coming off them. So it takes a bit of practice, but you can actually see it. So when people start to understand that we're all energy and we're connected, that's how we can actually connect and, send. So I teach people how to send energy balls to one another, to friends and family, so that they include lots of lovely things in them, and then synchronicities start happening. And so when people learn it that way, I think they start seeing some evidence, they start to understand. But that's probably the best way I can think of.
Yeah, they probably feel it and experience it, and then you get it. It's kind of in the feeling side of things. And so how would you say some ways that energy healing can serve us?
Oh, in so many ways. So many ways. Particularly, I think the thing that we need most is to manage our fear. I think we're all getting very caught up in fear at the moment. And when you use energy practices and you ground yourself daily and you connect to the sun and you bring those energies into your body and then push them out and protect yourself with, like nice big blue bubbles. And so you're not picking up other people's energies, and you can try and, get rid of that fear, which tends to sit in the kidneys and adrenals. And when you're not fearful, you feel really calm, and that's probably the most important thing to do right now. But it goes all the way through really dealing with any of life's issues, because all the chakras are connected to different parts of our lives.
Mm-hmm. So how would you say it's different? So here in the US, we are very much about change your mindset, push through, don't let it bother you, be strong kind of a thing. And how is, let's have a little discussion about how energy healing is different than that and why it might be, I don't know, should we say better? I don't know. We can have our opinions, right?
It feels better.
Yeah,
I think
it feels better.
Our culture's the same. We've all got jobs and mortgages and children to bring up and life stresses. And everybody's, told you work hard in school and you get a job and you buy a house and you do all those things. And it just brings so much pressure. And I think when you come from that energy perspective and you focus on getting into flow rather than, and I'm no expert, I'm still working, we all work on this all the time.
Right.
Get caught up in those old habits of struggling or thinking the worst thing's going to happen. But when you can get into that, bringing your energy into alignment and coming from that calmer, more loving space, everything just gets that much easier. And I think that's what it's about.
Yeah, I think the thing that I loved about the thinking about energy is it's like you just said it. It's like if I want to have a loving feeling or a peaceful feeling, if I think about that as an energy versus things I need to do to get that or things I need to have to get that, if I can understand it as more of an energy where I can move into that space and feel those feelings, what more could I ask for, right? What more could I ask for? That's it. That's it. Those other things outside of me really aren't bringing me those things. It's the energy in my body that's signaling to me that I am happy or that I am peaceful or those kind of things. And I think that's been my most amazing connection with energy work is it just gets to the real thing. Let's just get to the energy of it straight away. And we don't need to make a goal to get there necessarily. And I am all about goal achieving and goal making, but it's a little different. It's a different way it's a good addition to any kind of goals. It's moving the energy. Yeah.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it as an addition, like it's just that other layer. The other thing is that a lot of people, I don't know how they come up with these numbers, but some people say that when you heal yourself, you heal something like 700,000 other people around you. I don't know how they get the number, but certainly when you are in a good space and you walk into a room and, people feel calmer around you or happier around you. And I try to remind myself regularly that it takes as much energy to be nice to someone as it does to lose it and, get frustrated or angry. And if you can pull back and think about the impact you're having on others as well. So there's that group effect as well.
Yeah, it's all about the perspective of what's happening. I tell the example of if I walked around all day long and I had like a weird piece of paper stuck to the back of my shirt, but my perception of it was not there. I didn't know. I would have no embarrassment, because my perception is that it didn't exist, right? But if I came home and noticed it, I would probably my perception, all that I had already been through is now going to be changed into embarrassment. Oh, what did I see? I'm going to remember every person I talked to. Like it becomes so heightened because I have this, my perception is different. And we can practice and use tools. I'd like to talk to you about which tools you use in order to give ourselves the perspective we're looking for. Like it's kind of a strange way of thinking it, but it's like it's that's what we can do is kind of work with that and use like you say, use the energy rather than acquiring or things like that. Like it's been so freeing. I think. What are the tools that you use? Like you say, you use it on a daily basis. What are some of those tools?
So it's interesting because, picking up lots of modalities, I've started to form my own way of doing things. And I have times when I have a real strong focus on one aspect and then I might do other things. At the moment, doing a lot of work helping people to clear trapped emotions that are, creating energy blocks in their body, looking for deep wounds and healing those energetically. I do a bit of work. I've been trained in Akashic Records, so I do quite a bit of work. I keep my records open the whole time. And so sometimes past life trauma comes through. I've worked closely with family constellations healers and so also work with ancestral trauma. So time to get into those really big, deep sort of stuff at the moment. But the tools that I use that are light and fast and everyone can use them every day are things like bark flower remedies, crystals, herbs. I'm doing a lot of work with herbs at the moment. And because I do frequency work, you can clear, and anyone can do this, you can clear things, traumas, fears, anything from your body by using your meridian system. Have you seen, there was a lady doing it before this, but Bradley Nelson's well known for the emotion code and the body code. And so they use the two main meridians, so you can clear by just swiping. Are you familiar? You're nodding, so you're familiar. So you can swipe away, sort of trapped emotions or any emotions that are bothering you, and you can actually go back the other way and infuse the good stuff. So you can actually just keep swiping your meridians and bringing in love and joy or whatever you need. I do it energetically with my hands, but that's one way anyone can do it, and I really recommend they try it. So you can change your state pretty quickly doing that. So you can infuse things like bark flowers, and you can identify what bark flowers you need just by using simple muscle testing or scanning techniques. I've got a beautiful deck of little bark flower cards that I use. I tend to just get told intuitively when I'm working with someone, but if I want to know, you can get cards. This is probably with the background's not great. And you can use them like an oracle deck, and that'll tell you which bark flowers you need, and then you just infuse them. So you can bring yourself into a really nice emotional state by doing things like that. And I've been creating my own card decks by hand of all these hundreds of herbs now that I use. Yeah, so there's so much crystals. We have so many amazing tools out there that have already been around for thousands of years, and we just infuse them into our body. So
yeah. Yeah, Bradley Nelson lives close to me, so I've met him a few times. I want to ask two questions. One, I want to ask about the herbs and how they are different than maybe an essential oil, because that's really interesting to me. And two, I want to know you talked about fear before, and I kind of want to touch on, sometimes I've seen with clients of my own or people in the world that you kind of come across, and they kind of use the tools in a fearful way, or I don't know how to, do you know what I'm talking about? Like they're like, oh, I walked in, and they're just kind of, I mean, if they were my client, I would teach, I would do something very different than being my friend or being my acquaintance, but I wasn't thinking of asking this question, but I just wondered what you thought about that, because do you see how there's like a way of interacting with these tools, energy work, where I get it, because some people, I wrote to myself the day I had my first Reiki training, I wrote myself a little reminder, like a little pledge to say, people usually, sometimes they come to energy work when nothing else have worked. They've had time and time again of disappointment and struggle in their lives, and they've come here, and I need to be very aware of that and to help them discern for themselves what's right for them. It's really easy to go to a practitioner and have them just tell you what to do all the time, and we did a podcast where we talked about sometimes when help hurts, because sometimes someone's, they're not all for your benefit, so, you talked about how that fear is there. How do you help people use these tools when they're fearful, without creating another fear?
I listened to that podcast, and it was great. It was really good.
Oh, good.
I think the best thing I can do for people is teach them about intention. So how healing, as a Reiki healer, that intention's everything. So when you teach someone that it's all about your intention, if you come from a fearful place, it's really not going to help you. So if you set your intention, the other thing to do, I find really helpful, is that there's healers like Cindy Dale who teach using, I don't know if you call it an affirmation, but more of a mantra. But so when I open up a session, I tend to ground and connect that way. And then I'll bring in my spirit, their spirit, and then I ask for the helping spirits coming from the light. And then I call on the divine. And you can actually put symbols in place. Cindy teaches you to use symbols, makes it faster. So doing that, you're putting this sort of protection. And if you teach them how to protect themselves like that, you can say, well, no matter what healing tool you use, if you bring in those protections, you can trust that only what your body needs is going to happen for you. So that dials down the fear, helps them to feel safe, and away we go.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's an important step, just to kind of give them the intention is everything. And like I said, if I don't have a perception, if I have a perception that it's going to hurt me, or that's going to, not that that's going to hurt you, but, if I intention is the same thing. If I have this intention, And I think it's important to pause and just recognize that we're all beautiful, amazing beings. And that's step one. Because if I believe that I'm a worthy, beautiful being, then I'm probably not going to, the universe is friendly toward me, that kind of thing, the Einstein quote. So what about herbs? How are they different? I don't know much about herbs, but my star chart says I should learn more about herbs.
So the thing with herbs compared to essential oils are made from herbs, but there's just so many more of them out there. So I recently did some work with Indonesian herbs. They call it jamu over there, which is a healing practice. There's something like 40,000 tropical plants in the world, and there's 30,000 in Indonesia. So it's right on that equator. It's full of incredible medicine. It's just this medicine belt. And so there's all that, that they're not all made into essential oils. So that's really just the difference. So it's the source of it. And as I was saying, by making a deck of cards, and you can do it yourself, you can use an old deck of cards and put stickers on them, or just by plain cards, write down the name of the herbs and what it treats, and use them as an oracle, and then infuse that essence into your body, and it's magic, absolute magic.
So you use them more with the card than actually having them like on your shelf? Like, would you ever eat? Okay, interesting. So yeah, it's like different vibrations. They have different vibrations, and you're tuning into that different vibration. Okay.
It just opens up the world of healing to you, whereas if you have to have them, look, honestly, Bach flowers are incredible, and we've known about them for a very long time. Dr. Bach's work is really the game changer in getting people to understand the frequency of what each flower can do for you. And so each plant can do that for you too. The thing I like about setting that intention of bringing in that protection first is you can then trust that your body will only take in what it needs. So herbs are powerful. They can do harm as well as be good. But if you've actually set that intention, you've got your protection. It's a game changer because you don't worry about what you're infusing or sending to others.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, we needed that the other day. My husband was cooking dinner, and he had grabbed from the store some shiitake mushrooms and started to eat them while he was cooking. And apparently you can't eat raw shiitake mushrooms or you get a rash. So he's been like 3 or 4 days with, it looks like that, like, he's like, could you scratch my back? And it looks like I have like scratched his back so bad, just red. It's so bad. It's so he's struggling. So it's amazing how potent the plant kingdom is.
Yeah, it totally is. I'd get him to infuse aloe into himself using his,
Thank
bring
you.
some idea in,
Yeah,
and use
that's
it topically if you've got it handy, but just infusing it will help as well.
Yeah, we actually have a plant, so yeah, I'm gonna even use it that way. That's great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so you teach energy healing, is that right? And so what kind of, do you do different kinds? What do you teach?
It's really hard because I myself use lots of different types, and then when you go back to try and teach it, so I've got a few courses on Udemy. So there's a Discover is my first level course, and that's for people who really have no experience with energy at all. So it teaches things like the different ways of breathing to bring yourself into a calm state and the real basics of energy. But there's some really cool stuff in there, like it gets into affirmations, afformations, and what if cards. So it talks about the power of words, just various different touches on lots of little things. Then the next level course is Develop, and I've just sort of given it a bit of an overhaul. Develop, added in some interviews of other types of healing. So I interviewed a laughter yoga teacher, and my Akashic Records teacher, because you can do a lot of healing through that way, and a sound healer she also does family constellation work, but we focused on sound healing, and I hope to add more of those one-on-one interviews with healers to the course, because it helps people, because the course is really about finding your journey. A lot of people will go and learn, like Reiki or pranic healing, or there's so many, but a system, and they may stay with that system and be true to that system, and that's all they ever do, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We're all different. Other people, like me, are eclectic, and we collect lots of things and then pull it all together and to use our own way of healing. So what I've done with this course is try to teach people there's 6 key areas of healing, and you have probably got most of them or some of them, and to look for that, to look for what you like. Do you love music? Sound the way that you heal best, or is it through touch? And it's kind of like the 5 languages of love, figuring out your healing love or journey, and then following that path, and then seeing what else opens up for you. So I think we can all do it. I think we've got to find our pathway, and it can be frustrating and lonely. But if you actually start doing the courses or meeting people and really doing it, it opens a world of incredible people, support. It's really a wonderful way to meet others and really enjoy life. So that course is about finding your, what's and just like touching on lots of things, but it also teaches the basic pranic, the way we do things with pranic, how we clear a chakra, how we energize a chakra, what all the chakras are, that sort of
stuff. That's great. Yeah, I was looking at your blog, and you have a really good article about learning what type of healer you are, and you talked about, you explained them out, and I thought it was just good to try and because to just kind of explain these. So the first one was a sound healer, and so what would be a sound healer, and how would that a little bit about a sound healing experience and the healer side of that. What does that look like?
So sound is something I've found is it's immense, actually. There's a lot to it. So we hear about crystal bowls and various different instruments and things, which Yile talks about in her interview, and she demonstrates, she's got beautiful drums and there's all the instruments, but then some people heal with their voices. So you might go to a counsellor who has an incredible way of expressing, just says the right things to you, so they're healing through voice that way. It can be anything. It can be music, it can be so uplifting. There's a fabulous book called Chakra Dance, and this woman has created these kind of tribal dances and music soundtracks to each of the chakras. So fun to do. So it's just endless sound healing. I went on a retreat in Australia with my sister a couple of years ago. I was just listening to the audio. Just yesterday it came up in my feed. That healer, she was a sound healer, and she took us up into the bush. So here we are in the Australian bush, and we walk up, and we had to walk up to this big rock, and we all put our hands on it, and then she walked around us with a huge crystal bowl, and my hands were on the bowl, on the rock, and I thought, wow, like all the people in this area must hear this. It's so loud. And it was going right through the rock, right through every cell of my body. And then when we all talked about it afterwards, no one else had that experience, but I had. So I had like this big awakening while I was there and couldn't sleep and was really revved up. So I found that sound healing is quite powerful for me, but I don't consider myself a sound healer. So you might be attuned to it. It might be really good for you, but it might not be how you heal others. So yeah, that's one example. There's a lady in New Zealand who has the most enormous gong you've ever seen, and she does the most incredible healing. She takes her gong around the country, but she'll also do one-on-one sessions, and she said that her beings come through and show her where to hit the gong. It's the most profound healing, and I had a session with her. I've got a recording of that. So yeah, so that, I hope that gives a bit of a picture of sound healing.
Yeah, that's great. I hadn't thought about all of those ways. So that is fascinating. You are so right about that. What about the second one you talked about is frequency healers? So what does that look like?
That's what I've discovered I've become, really. That's kind of my niche at the moment. So frequency, well, there's lots of, it's kind of, if you think of the Rife machine, if you know what a Rife machine is, these were invented many, many years ago, and they send frequency to people, and they put little, things on you, sticky things. And there's new ones around. I think there's one called Freaky 2 or something. My friend's got one of those. So you can buy machines that send frequency to you. But as a frequency healer myself, I just tune in and send. So my guides tell me what people need, and then we infuse it, and I basically use my hands to send the energy that way. So it's just tuning into frequency. So frequency 528 is commonly known as the frequency of miracles. Magic and miracles. So if you're thinking of someone and you're sending them an energy ball, you don't have to be a frequency healer to do it, but you can say, I'm adding 528, I'm adding this magic and miracles energy and things like that. So the frequency can heal all sorts of diseases, pain, and there's specialists in that area that use these big machines to help people as well. So that's got, quite a bit of scope.
Okay, so when you see, because there's a lot, like on YouTube, you'll see a lot of frequency, number, whatever. So are they intending that frequency, or is the sound, it's more of the intention than anything?
Yeah, I'm not
Is that
sure
right?
how they work, but that's
Okay.
basically what it is. Whether, I'm not sure how they do those. I create infusions. I started creating infusions this year with pictures and sound, and I infuse whatever's needed to make that. So if we're looking to bring joy into the life, I'll bring in all the bark flowers that will promote joy, the crystals, the herb, and then ask for any other frequencies. I often include things like I feel worthy, I feel love, anything uplifting. So they've all got their own frequency lines that I add and record and tune into them.
Yeah, I've watched a few and I loved them. Okay, so like the pictures would be they would all be focused on that one particular frequency. Like I think there was an abundance one I saw. There was, things like that. So, okay, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so I wondered because, I'll always sometimes if I'm getting in the tub or if I'm feeling, I'll just turn on some of those kinds of music in the background, and my husband says they sound all the same, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how they do their ones, but that's what they're trying to achieve is that output. And yeah, I listen to them sometimes, and I can feel the shifts in energy. So
Yes, yeah. So, well, now that I know you, I know right where to go. I'll get my playlist on there. But yeah, sometimes husbands can be very practical and logical. Especially the more woo-woo you are, you're going to attract, no, he's really supportive, but he was just so funny when he's like, they sound the same to me. And I couldn't disagree, but somehow it works.
I guess too, if you think about it, to someone who doesn't listen to rap, all rap songs sound the same.
True. So true. That is a good point. That is a good point. Okay, so intuitive healers. Intuitive healers. What are those?
So intuitive healers just have a knowing. So it's that clairsentience, that sense of knowing. And so they'll be guided. So I tend to use quite a lot of intuitive work in the way I do. So I'll start working on someone and I'll say to my guide, because sometimes I'll work on Zoom with a client, and other times I'll say, hey, you got a lot going on here, and I'm going to work, you just stay cool and I'll just work and do it here. And then we'll meet up afterwards and I'll talk about what's going on. But my guide's like, I was working on someone this week. I knew they'd had a bad injury a long time ago. And they just said that, could you have a look at my son? And I said to the guides, where do we go? And I got neck. And we found a massive number of trapped emotions in the neck. Cleared all those, and then messaged the mum and said, because I always work with the higher self to check I have permission and I don't just go messing with people's energy. Contacted the mum and just said, hey, look, I found all these. I didn't go into what they were because that's his business. I don't share what people's emotions are with others. But, hope he's feeling better. Let me know how he's going, sort of thing. And she came back and she said, oh, my goodness, I just found out it was his neck that came up. But his actually injury, I found out later, was lower in the body. So we're going to go there next week. But he put his neck out 2 days ago. And so it was interesting. I was sent to the neck, not where the original, because you'd normally go to the original. So if I was just following, if I'm talking to you and you say, oh, well, I've got this really sore shoulder, I could start working on your shoulder. But if I tune into my guides and say, what does she need? They might send me somewhere else. So there could be a higher need. So that's what I see intuitive healing as. It's about building your intuition and then trusting that others can guide you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, healers probably use a lot of intuition, a little bit. Although you talked about how some people are very by the book. Some people are just learn their training and they just follow their training, and that's okay too.
Yeah, so system healers are people who they're methodical, they like research, they need to know what to do. They get a sense of, because we all need faith and we all need to believe it's working. And they get that sense of, I can do this by following this recipe. But they're the ones who'll say, oh, no, you didn't do it like that last time. Like they're really exact. And they need the science. They love the science. We all start there, right? We all start needing that. Yeah.
Yeah. When my Reiki trainings, there would be practice and everybody, like they would move an eighth of an inch over. Oh, I'm not on it right. And I remember, I think I'm just so feeling and intuitive. I just was like, what? Like I would, and I had to give myself permission to say, I don't have to do it that way. I can do it my intuitive way, even though, especially Reiki is very precise and it's very regimented in if you learn an actual how to do a real live Reiki session, right from Japan. It's very, there's one step to, but I've never done that in all of my Reiki sessions. It's always been my own way of doing things, whether that for good or bad, I don't know, but.
Oh no, I think that's good. I think that's very good. And that's the way we should be. It's kind of like when you learn to write, you learn the rules and then you break them because you know which rules you're breaking. I think it's very much like that. So you need that system to give you the confidence to have a go and to trust. And then after that, just go for it. And if you could do that right from the start, well, you're obviously an intuitive healer. So, and we can have multiple, we might have all of them. Some people have all the healing types. It's just about finding what's good for you.
That's good for you. I loved it. I love that.
I just had a thought that I remember that I took my husband, after I'd studied, I did all 3 levels of pranic, and we had to travel quite a way to do it. I was working in another city to do it. And I took my husband up there because I had to go back because I was getting to teacher level and I wanted to go back. You have to redo the courses. And I said, why don't you come? Because he wanted to buy a new car. I said, why don't you come and do level 1 with me? It'll be fun. It'll be a weekend away. Well, he went in there and he just starts doing, and all of a sudden he can see all the dirty energy coming out of the chakras. And he was off doing his own thing. And the teacher said to me, he's so doing his own thing over there. He's got it going on. Like, yes, he can. And I felt just so ripped off. I'd been doing this for years and I still can't see energy. You know, that's not my gift, or maybe one day I will. But to think he could just walk up there and suddenly start, and he knew exactly when to stop and when to go to the next chakra. And I was just like, that's not fair.
What is it about the envy of those that see? It's real. It's real.
Yeah, it is real. It totally is. But then I've heard people say that seeing can actually slow you down. Seeing can keep you restricted. So we've got to stop this gift envy and just get on with what we're doing. But
it's true. I interviewed, her name is Lisa Campion, and she's a psychic. And I told her that, and she says, everybody that sees would say they would rather get it out because you can't choose what you see and what you don't see, like. I'm like, I guess that's probably true. I will just be grateful for my own gifts. Okay, so then, so we talked about this systemized healers, the people that use the tools, exactly how they're taught. And then light healers was another one. How would you describe a light healer?
Yeah, so light and color. So light and color go hand in hand. And in pranic healing, they teach advanced pranic healing teaches you to work with color. So we work very much with green as a cleanser, orange as an antiseptic. So if you were cleaning a building, you clear it with orange, but not with people in it, because it's quite powerful. So colour's powerful. There's colour psychology, there's all of that. But light, so colour, light comes through as colour. So when we see rainbows, it's all light frequency. So those people are more likely to see. But yeah, so colour, I use colour in my healing work. But I wouldn't call myself a light healer, but who knows, so, and it's something we can all pick up too. Once you learn what the colours do and how to use them, they can be a lot of fun and bring a lot of joy. If you're getting your house ready to sell it, you could go through and clean it with green and then violet, because they're the 2 cleaners that we tend to use. And you use what we call as white lightish. So you have white on the inside. So if you're imagining the energy is white and a fine layer of green on the outside. And then you just send it into each room, whichever way you work, whether it's, you're clearing it with your hands or intuitively. And so you clear the house out of all those negative energies and things like that. And then what you do is you paint it in pink and gold. And then it just makes the house really highly enhanced. You do this before you open homes, and it helps to sell your house faster. So there's lots of tips like that.
Yeah, that's a great advice. So it's more like you're just intending, you're just visualizing, maybe in your, you could say daydreaming, whatever. You're just picturing in your mind as if, that green, was it green and white was kind of touching all the parts of your house and then going over it with pink. So it's more of an intention type of thing.
If you can't see, you just sense it and trust that it's happening. And it could be that you might just imagine yourself walking through the house with your mind and throwing a bomb, like one of those flower bombs of green and white into that room to clear it, and then imagine the energy leaving the house. It's all about, the only limits are your imagination, really, and your intentions, and you can have a lot of fun. Yeah. Other people go through with crystals and clear their houses with crystals, or they'll use saging and things like that, don't they? So colour is just another way to do it. And I think if people try it, and then notice a difference in their house, then they're going to, think this is for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think I do work with colors a little bit because I'm very attuned to colors. I mean, my husband will say I'll like see a shirt and I could leave the house and go to the store and find the exact color of that shirt. Like I can do the colors. And I also, when I work with crystals, I mean, I can learn it, but it's all about the colors for me. I associate the colors with the chakra a little bit. That's just kind of how it's the easiest for me to work. So that's interesting. I didn't ever think about that before, but I'll have to play with that a little bit. That's kind of interesting. All right. The last one you talk about in your article is the touch healers.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a crossover between systems and touch. So, some systems teach you to do distance healing and you don't need to touch anything. And then touch is, the hands-on healing. It's been around forever, hasn't it? So there's lots of different modalities that touch. So that's really just using your hands. And some people learn that way by laying their hands on or getting very close to the body. Magnetic healing teaches you to clear all the blood by running your hands down the body. If you don't touch, you just go slightly above. So it's just whatever those modalities are. And of course, chiropractors, osteopaths, all those healers are masseuses. They're magical hands, they're the touch healers.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that is a good idea. So we talked about a little bit, learning all these types of healers and learning what type of healer you are is just kind of, tuning into what speaks to you the most, would you say?
And I think too, you've got to trust that things will come up. It's like anything in life, you'll get this sense that, oh, that looks interesting, or you might get a book on it. And so I teach myself a lot of modalities now by reading a book. And so, I read some books on theta healing, thought, wow, can I do this? So I started bringing in theta healing and some of the things they do, like clearing on different programs. And then I recently did a course with Jean Hayner in the Shift Network where she teaches energy clearing using all the elements. So, now I don't do it her way. She uses a pendulum. I just use my hands and clear, all our water, wood, go through each person's elements and clear those out. So it's another way to clear. So you can teach yourself lots of modalities and then see what sticks for you. But what guides you is your intuition, really. It's like seeing something going, that's interesting. That's all you need. And it gets you started. So follow your instincts. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the way you even play with it, make it fun.
Totally. The more fun it is, the more creative you can get with it, and the more amazing things you can do.
Yeah. So this is a strange question, and maybe it's a weird thing, but what would you say the difference between maybe healing gifts and like spiritual gifts, like mediumship, or how do those cross over? I just thought of it myself. I don't know. I'm wondering. I was like, what? That's an interesting question I never thought of before, but how would you describe the difference between those two?
I listen to a lot of spiritual podcasts and learn a lot from all of them. So I listen to a lot of mediums and psychics and different ones. And there's a huge crossover there. So quite often psychics are healers as well, or mediums are healers as well. But each of those things on their own are a healing modality. So this is my opinion. I'm no expert, but so mediumship itself heals because it connects people with loved ones that people are worried about, or they might have said something to them before they died, or they feel like I lost my sister earlier this year and I'm really anxious. Did I do enough for her? And so I'm at some stage I'm going to get a mediumship reading, and I sense that she's coming through, and I hear things and I go, you say such nice things to you. You're really saying this to me? Like, you doubt yourself because you're so close. Whereas when I'm working intuitively healing people, I don't even doubt anything coming through. So that's mediumship has got a massive healing potential. I think they're all healing modalities, and people just get drawn to different ones. And I sort of wonder, am I going to end up doing mediumship work too? Because sometimes I have things come through. So, yeah, and of course the psychic's really helpful for the visualizing for healing and things, and medical mediums, and I think they're all just healing modalities.
That's a really good point, because it is for people that's lost someone and works with a medium, can be very, very healing for those people. So you are correct. Well, we talked about your energy infusion, so I want to make sure to put a link for those on your YouTube, because I think those are amazing. I liked how you had several things going on. You could tell that there was, and even talking to you, it even makes more sense. There's the words, there's the pictures, there's the music, there's the intention of it himself. So I think those are amazing. Those are all on your YouTube channel. We'll make sure to link to that. And then, and do you have like any kind of, so this year we're focusing on a book every month on the podcast, and we're doing an episode each month that we're calling where it's like we're looking at the woo-woo of the book, so we we for January we're focusing on The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Have you ever heard of that book?
Yes, I read that a long time ago.
Yeah, and we were able to interview him. He came on our podcast, and so it was so exciting. And then we're gonna interview his wife here in a little bit. We're kind of gonna introduce these books and on their concepts, but we're gonna take one episode each month, and we're gonna call it like, what's the woo woo? What's the woo woo of these books? Because they do have when you and we're kind of making fun a little bit, but there's ideas, these principles that you've talked about, these modalities that you talked about work on principles that these books are really explaining. And so I just wondered if you had any comment about, first of all, do you think that woo woo has become more, like we say, we're not woo woo, we're just woo. We've upgraded. We're not as weird as we were. Like your poor uncle. I mean, your poor uncle. But so we're just getting to woo. We're just woo. If we could get people to just be woo, would be so much better. Our society would be so much more whole and healed if we just moved a little bit in that direction. But in your interaction with different kinds of media, different kinds, especially books or whatever, do you seem to identify with things differently through the eye of a healing modality? I mean, you were young when you started this, but do you start to pick up on, oh, that's a healing modality? That's energy they're talking about.
Oh, it's woven through everything. It's all, even romance novels can have a bit of woo in them. You just don't know where you're going to find it. But it's just the spiritual thinking behind whatever they're saying. So, like bringing up romance novels, that's what I do in my downtime, is read those, but even then, it comes through. But I remember being at a writers' conference, and a woman said to the woman on stage, who was a famous romance writer in our country, she said to her that she was telling a story about how she met this woman who asked her, they had children the same age that had gone through high school together. She said, how's your son and all that? And she said, one of her children had leukemia, and when she was in hospital, she said, your romance books healed me. They kept me level. They helped me get through one of the hardest times of my life. So it's everywhere. It can be found everywhere. It can be found in the rose gardens. It can be found hugging a tree. It can be anywhere. You don't have to do the really out there woo-woo stuff to... And I love the concept of woo-woo, and I love it when people call me a witch. I just laugh. None of that offends me. You can't offend me with this work, because I so believe in it that I can't be offended by it. So, yeah.
So in February, we're going to talk about the book called Attached, and we're going to talk about being connected in relationships and things like that. What do you find in energy healing? How does it support relationships? What is your thoughts about energy work in relationships and kind of healing those attachments?
What I love, because I can do distance healing, and most people can who learn it, you can connect with anyone anywhere in the world. So if we've got family overseas, which I have, I don't feel so disconnected from them anymore, because I can do healing for them, and it brings us closer together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll definitely talk about that as far as using energy healing to kind of support relationships in that way. So yeah, I wanted to touch on that. And then we always ask our guests just to kind of tell us a little bit about your thoughts and feelings or ideas or connections to or identifying with the idea of wholeness.
That's such a huge concept. I love your podcast. It's so diverse. It's really diverse, wonderful. And I have heard a few people say what they thought, and it got me thinking. I thought, what do I think wholeness is? And it made me think it's our North Star. It's what we're trying to get to. You probably had people say this before, but I thought of the plane analogy. You know how the plane has a target and it keeps going off course, and we all do that because life happens to us. I think trying to be whole is when we can get it, bring it all back online and keep heading for that wholeness. I don't know that we ever get there. We might have glimpses of it, but yeah, that's what we're aiming for, right? Wholeness.
When most people are asked what they want, they will answer, I want to be happy. But happy takes practice. And that's what the Wholeness Library is all about. So check it out free at thewholenessnetwork.com.